Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. I got a guest for you today. That's right. I've been working on the sound for the podcast, and I hope I got it a little bit better. I hope it's improved, and we'll see. We'll bring her in just a moment. As always, you can find this and all the back episodes of our podcast at our website. It's called ordinarymarathoner.com. Check it out if you get a chance. You can also find us over at Twitter. Handle over there is at @OrdMarathoner. That's ORD Marathoner. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back. You can also find our discussion group over on Facebook called Ordinary Marathoners. It's a good group. Our guest is part of the group. Got a lot of good people over there, a lot of, good crew, nice supportive people. And, join the group. It's a closed group, so you got to add yourself to it. We'll put you through right away and you can join the conversation, or you can just be a lurker and read what other people have to say. It's a good place to be. I hang out there a lot. I hang out there often. Anyway, I want to have our guest come on quickly, but I do want to kind of take a step back here because we did a podcast last week. I did it with my wife, Stephanie, and we kind of we ended it and we were kind of gung ho about to sort of recovering from sort of like a malaise that we were going through and sort of a period of, not being motivated and things happening and bad luck. And I do want to say that the day after we cut that podcast about our bad luck, this is one day after, my daughter got strep throat. I drove home from work. I pulled into my garage and went to push the button and the garage door wouldn't close. And later that night, I went to the basement and it was flooded because we had a leak from a seal in our furnace. So the bad luck just continued. But I do have to say, we kind of turned around the mood during that podcast and took my daughter to the doctor. Her mother took her to the doctor. We got her on meds really quick, and she was, I think she missed one day of school, and she was fine, and she's pretty much fully recovered now. I called the garage door guy right away, and he came over the next day and he fixed the garage. And I called the furnace guy right away, and he came over a day later and he fixed that. So it's kind of like those things where you're in a bad mood or you're kind of not in the right frame of mind. Those are the kind of things that can sit there and just fester and you don't ever take care of them. And I mean, I guess you kind of have to take care of a leak in the basement. But, I can't believe I said that. Anyway, it's one of those things that, when you're kind of in the right frame of mind, you just take care of them. Your day goes by and you just kind of check them off the list as you go. And I know that when we got off the podcast, we had said that we were going to make a list of things that we needed to do. And we did that. And my list consisted of 3 things. And the first one was to work on fixing this podcast and the sound. And I did. I contacted the makers of some of the equipment here, and they gave me a little tweak of some things I could tweak on the computer to hopefully make the sound, and it could be a latency problem or something like that. And so I messed around with it, and now here's the test case. I have a nice friendly guest coming on today. So hopefully if it goes wrong, we're going to test it out, and hopefully if it goes wrong, she won't get too mad at me. The second thing I wrote down was that I had to get out of my new gym that I'd been trying out at lunch because it's like the Craigslist gym. All the equipment is horrible. It's like they got it at garage sales, and I couldn't deal with it. And I got to tell you, I went there and I got out of that gym and I went back to my old gym, and I got a card to let me in at least through the end of the month. And I'm back in my old gym, and I can't tell you how great it feels. And I can't tell you, talk about creature habit. I just love that gym, and it's like now that I have my routine back, I'm back in it and I'm there every day, and it feels good. It feels right. And it's like, all right, things are turning around for me here. And then the third thing that I wrote down was that I really had to work on getting everything set up for our virtual race, the Ordinary Marathoner. It's registration is going to open next week, and now we have everything all set. It's all set, ready to go. We're going to be opening up registration next week. The first 25 people to register are going to get a tag from Momentum Jewelry. It was, I think we did the same thing during the Million Moo March, and I think people like them. So, if you're thinking about registering, get your hand on that trigger. We're going to open up sometime next week. We'll be letting you guys know, as soon as we get everything finalized, but it's pretty much there, and I'm happy. It's ready to go. And, it was a lot of work. It's still a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work through April, but, I hope we can bring a good event to you, just like the Million Moo March. I enjoyed that immensely. So, actually, our guest also participated in the Million Moo March. She's in the discussion group and was a Million Moo March and is a return guest. Ladies and gentlemen, Jen Bergstrom, welcome to the program.
Hello.
It's nice to have you on. We've been trying to do this a couple times, and I know the last time I couldn't even get you on the line. It was like the sound was so bad. Things have just been horrible, but I got a feeling we're turning the corner here and things are going to get better.
As long as I don't sound like the mother on the Peanuts, we're good.
Wah, wah, wah. I think you sound pretty good here. I think, I don't know, we'll see though. We'll see how it goes. We got, hopefully a half an hour show here. So hopefully it'll last. So, I think there's so much has happened since the last time I had you on this podcast. I think when I had you on the podcast, we barely even knew each other. I mean, is that what your recollection?
Yeah, we had just started to get to know each other, I think, at that point. And I think that was back not long after I had just heard your podcast with Melissa,
right?
And talking about you doing your first Ironman, and never having done a triathlon. So
you were very concerned for me,
as I should have been.
I think so.
Too. So
But we, so I think after that podcast, I think and I think that's where. You said, I think towards the end of that podcast, you had mentioned that, all right, come May or come June, whenever the water starts warming up, that you were going to get me out in the open water, because I had never done an open water swim before. And you were true to your word, I got to say. You followed up quite nicely.
I try to be true to my word always.
So I think it was late May. And I don't even remember. It must have been like a text message or something I got from you saying, "All right, let's head on down to Walden Pond." And I think we met your coach that day, Nick Anthony, who's now
probably the second time that we.
Oh, he showed up the second time. Oh, yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
What?
We went
because
4 times.
The first time it was so cold, and he was there. And I say Nick Anthony, Nick Cumbo, obviously.
His shoulders were.
Right. His shoulders are bad.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but that water was so cold. And I remember driving out there, and my car has like a little digital thermometer for the outside temp, and it was like hovering around 43 degrees. And I'm driving to do an open water swim thinking, this woman is nuts.
It wasn't that cold.
It actually wasn't too bad. I was, what the wetsuits help, right?
Yes, and I let you borrow the wetsuit for all the way through Lake Placid,
right.
My husband's wetsuit.
Right, which I did not pee in, I swear. I did not. But yeah, it was sleeveless though, I will say. So getting in that cold water, like it was like knives hitting your arms. I remember that. I was
not bad.
Look, I tried to play tough for like that first 100 yards. I was like, I don't know. I hit that water and now mind you, I've gone to the beach. I've swim in the, I swim in a pool. But I've never swam out into like an open lake before. So, I probably mentally, I had it in my mind. I knew what I was going to do, but there I was, amongst other people dressed in their wetsuits. And I kind of had to act like I knew what I was doing and I wasn't scared. But there was some fear there. I will admit there was some fear there.
You did really, really well, though, in both of your swims and everything. I'm talking about like at your Ironmans and everything. I just wanted to point that out. Well,
I do have to say that, like,
you you turned out it went the. I'm glad I dragged you out into open water before you actually did an Ironman or did a triathlon, period. But you seem to be a natural at it in terms of sighting and everything. So
Yeah, it was. I mean, I know I can do better, and I know technique wise, I probably leave a lot of time out there because almost every breath I'm looking up, which is probably not proper technique. I mean, right? I mean, how often would you say you kind of have to look up to sight? How often do you do it?
Maybe I would say 3 to 6. Actually, I would say 6 because I bilaterally breathe.
Right.
So every maybe 6 strokes, I would probably peer up to make sure I was on course. And I mean, with all the people around you, you have to kind of pay attention to all of that and also look up to see where the next buoy is. So.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's hard to practice is the traffic, is swimming in traffic. Now, when I did Lake Placid, I kind of stayed away from it all. But in Maryland, you couldn't really stay away. They kind of funneled you in. So, it was a thinner lane. So you couldn't really get away from people. Even like there was one backstretch that was a little bit wider. And for some reason, there was one guy, and he was probably, what's the word when you follow a person closely? You know what I'm talking about? They did drafting. He was probably drafting me, but he was getting so close, and it was like, I just want to be left alone. Can't you just leave me alone? But it's one thing you don't really practice, I guess, when you're out there. And Maryland too, the water, like you couldn't see your hand out. It was so murky, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. But Lake Placid was it's very clear. So you can see the person in front of you. And the same thing with Walden, is you can see the person in front of you. All that stuff makes a difference. And I guess really what I wanted to say, I really, like, I owe you a public thank you for dragging me out there and getting me in that open water. And if anyone else out there is thinking about doing a triathlon, I got to tell you, if you haven't done an open water swim, it is not the same as a pool swim. It definitely is not. And you should, it's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you time and comfort. And there are people who literally freak out the first time they get in and I don't blame them. So Jen, I thank you so much for getting me out there and showing me around the lake, because it helped out in the end, a ton.
We'll go back. Like I said, we'll go back in, late May, early June again. So,
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not doing another Ironman this year, but I will be. I'm planning on Ironman Montrabant in 2017. Yeah,
2019, right?
Yeah, 2019. It's what year is it? Yeah, exactly.
I've heard really good things about that race. What were the other? Now, refresh my memory. I think you did Lake Placid. You did it the year that it rained, right? And the lightning,
right?
And then you did Wisconsin.
Yes, I did Wisconsin, even though I had some health concerns. I don't know why I was blacking out on the bike halfway through the bike, so ended up DNFing myself on the course because my heart rate would not go down after that. So
did you actually finish the bike and then stop, or did you stop during the bike?
I finished halfway through. I was at the turnaround point, and I pulled myself from the race. I sat there at the aid station thinking, well, if I sit down for a little bit, maybe I can continue. Right. Because I knew I could probably run through, but it wasn't safe if I was going to keep blacking out, and getting faint. Probably was not safe to people around me.
No, you don't want to faint on a bike. That would be...
I would probably have crashed and ended up in the hospital.
Yeah. So you take the DNF on that. I mean, I think I started the sport and I was like, it's like a pride thing that you don't want to DNF. But you know what? If you're hurting, if you got that kind of medical, feel like a medical condition, you gotta be careful. Some of the I tell you, like Lake Placid, that downhill. Well, I forget what they call it, the Keen Descent. I mean, you can get hurt badly. Oh,
if you can get going, I got going over 40 miles per hour down that. So But the thing is, I know if I hadn't had the issues I did, I was well trained and would have done it in probably a 13-hour range. I had, I think I said in the last podcast, but I had some issues in the swim. It was a little bit more turbulent, and I got kicked in the rib early on, and it took a little while to gather myself and continue swimming. But
right.
So it wasn't my day.
So we're gonna head to break here in a second, but I know. So you signed up for a really long race last year. I can't remember the name. I think it was in Vermont.
It was New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, okay. And it was like, was it a 50 miler? Is that what it was? It
was 60. It was increments of 15.
Right.
But my goal for the year was 50 miles.
Uh-huh.
And I made it 52 and a half because I made it out to the turnaround before, which is, it's 7.5 out and back.
Gotcha. So you made it to the turnaround and then
Achilles got a little bit upset at me. So I decided at that point it was not, I wasn't running. So I would just have been stubbornness to limp walk for a really, really long time at that point to get to 60 miles if I was at 52 and a half. So since I was at a point I could pull out,
you did it. Left. You took it.
Yeah. Oh. And it wasn't a DNF. There's no DNFs there. They record whatever you do.
And so I think, and like you said, I think your goal was 50 miles anyway. So you eclipsed that, but you've also, ever since I've known you, it seems like you've kind of had this goal that you're working towards, which is to do a 100-mile race, and that's coming. And we're going to talk about that after the break. So I think I just think that last year, is what it is. You had pretty successful year, and you're working towards that goal, and we're going to talk about that right after the break. We'll be right back with Jen Bergstrom. Hey guys, my friend Lauren is creating an incredible resource for runners and triathletes. It's called raceadvisors.com. She has amassed a list of thousands of races, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, marathons, ultramarathons, and triathlons, and anything in between. If you're thinking about running a race, look it up and check out the reviews. Have a favorite race of your own? Look it up. See what others have to say about it. Or better yet, leave a review of your own. raceadvisors.com. Read it, race it, review it. I want to tell you guys about another great small business I've come across while doing this podcast. It's called Greasy Girl Headbands. I know. I have very short hair, so what could I possibly know about headbands? Well, I know that I bought one for my wife Stephanie and daughter Samantha this Christmas. Stephanie, she uses it for what it was designed for, running and working out. But 8-year-old Sam, well, she just wears hers all the time. So the question is, how can you get one? Well, that's easy. You head on over to greasygirlheadbands.com. It's spelled Greeecie, girlheadbands.com, and select from the many styles and options they have available. I'm sure you'll find one that's just perfect for you. All right, we're back here from break with Jen Bergstrom. Those were our two sponsors. You just heard Greasy Girl Headbands. Just got a haircut. I was growing it out for a while. I was thinking maybe they do some Greasy Dude headbands. Did I use that joke last time? Did you listen to the last podcast, Jen?
I still haven't gotten a chance to. Things have been crazy at work, so I
might have used that joke before. Greasy Dude headbands. I don't know. It's not really a joke. Anyway, but raceadvisors.com, our other sponsor. I can't wait. We're going to do, I'm doing the Phoenix half next week. I was supposed to do the full, just had some injury issues and haven't been training, haven't done any long runs. And I've done a full marathon before without doing many long runs, and it wasn't pretty. So I have downgraded to the half. I'm kind of disappointed in that, but is what it is. I got bigger goals, And speaking of goals, Jen Bergstrom, next year. Let's go through the schedule. Let's see what you got on tap. Yeah, this year. I'm still living in 2017 too.
Yeah, I know. I think it's just our brains lately.
It's this winter. You know what's funny? It actually hasn't been a bad winter. I don't know about you guys up in the Boston area. I don't think it's been that bad up there either.
No, not been bad at all.
But I really no excuses. It's been a really good winter.
Yeah. So you asked about race schedule. Yeah. I've got half marathon, Hyannis half marathon in a week. So a week from this weekend. And then Black Hat 20, which I'm going to be running with Laura Stebbins.
She's from my neighborhood.
Yep. I'm going to be running. Coach Nick said she could run the 10. So I'll run at least 10 with her. Okay. And then I'll continue on my own. With my own motivation, internal.
For the first 20?
I've done lots of runs.
For the next, it's 20 total?
It's 20 total. Yeah, it's a good race. It's cheap. It's last year it was single digits in wind, and Nick, I think, Nick and Sarah did, his fiance, did the 10 miler, and I went and took the 20 miler to a treadmill because I decided I would rather not freeze to death. I'd rather bore to death.
So you just ran it on your own indoors?
Yep, at the YMCA, and then went and emailed to defer, and they're a good company, so BNS Fitness deferred the race to this year, and I registered for free, so I am going back.
All right.
And it's not that expensive anyhow. I think it's like maybe $40 if so.
So hopefully the weather holds out for you this year, and you can get that done. And that's it's kind of a good entry into your year. So it sounds like you're sort of like building up your increments. Is there more beyond that?
Yeah. So
I mean, we know the ultimate goal, but
I am running it's an unofficial run that I am not actually running the Boston Marathon this year. I will be volunteering at a few different races this year, but including Boston. But so there's a last long run about 3 weeks before the actual marathon that all the charity teams and running clubs partake in, and I think about 3,000 people actually run this. And it's not a race. It's just that there are several tables set up along the whole entire course, put up by charities, probably more aid stations than the actual Boston Marathon has.
That's funny.
And it is really awesome, and it's just it's a fun run, and I get a free burrito at the end. So it's 22 miles of the course, but some people do more or less.
That's funny. So then, is that and you said it's the day before?
That's about three weeks before.
Oh, okay.
It's set up so that the people, anybody running the Boston Marathon, and
it's like a training
to join. If you're feeling up to it, if your foot problem isn't, it's anybody can. They have several clubs and charity teams and everything chartering buses or vans out to Hopkinton.
Right.
And it's basically something only locals know about, or the teams tell people about, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I remember, so we had Dean Karnazes on the show, 6 months ago.
Yep.
But he's done the Boston Marathon a ton of times, and he talks about like getting up the morning of the race from his hotel in Boston and running from Boston to the starting line.
Yep.
And then running the marathon.
The funny thing is, I know several people who have done that,
Right.
Run a double Boston Marathon, including my friend Greg, who's an ultra runner. So
That's crazy.
it's a good segue into what I'm doing.
Right. Right. So maybe you should do that. Maybe you should do the outrun, but you can't do the back run. But
no, that's banditing, and I don't.
No, not running. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's funny. So like
I have run Boston a couple times though, but
I was so I just transferred from this full marathon to the half marathon in Phoenix, and I was kind of close to the deadline, and they were like, oh, there's no transferring after this date, and so Melissa's like, just run the half anyway, and I'm like, I'm not gonna run the half without permission because you cross the finish line and you're wearing a full bib. And, maybe I cross it in 2.5, but it looks like I ran the full marathon. And, and I take that moment away from the person who finished, first or second in my age group because I'm the dummy that ran the half with a full bib. Then I'll be on, marathoninvestigator.com.
Yeah, exactly. For being a really fast.
I can't do that. Actually, it would probably be good for the podcast. It's like any publicity is good publicity, right? But,
well, if you busted your 2-hour half, then, and they had you on the full marathon, then you will have the record for the fastest marathon.
Right. If I got through 2 hours, right, Nike would be calling me.
You're no ordinary marathoner.
Right. All that 2-hour project, right? They're like, look, this guy, this chubby guy, he got 2 hours. Anyway. But yeah, no, I didn't do that. I wound up getting permission. I did, to run the half, and I've switched over to the half, and now, and actually even the half, I'm not really planning on attacking it pretty hard. I'm just going to kind of, I'm going to hang out. Stephanie's running it. So I'm going to hang out, with her and Melissa and whatever. If it's 2.5 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, it is. To be honest, I don't even know if I could. I definitely wouldn't be a 2-hour half right now.
Just walk if you need to walk. I know you've been having foot problems. I've been having, like I said, I potentially have something torn. I don't know. My physical therapist is talking to Nick, my coach, or our coach, about it, to figure out what's going on, if it's just not healing up, which is why I haven't been able to run faster paces, and I keep getting this nasty pain anytime I try to pick up any sort of speed.
Right.
So the average of my runs has been anywhere between a 10 and a 10:40 pace, as of late, because I just can't run that fast, which is probably not a bad thing anyhow, considering what I'm planning on doing this.
Right. And let's get to that, 'cause I don't even think we really touched on that yet. What the big goal for 2018?
The big goal is in October. It's the Javelina 100 out in Arizona.
Yep.
And I'm hopefully going to finally get to meet the head heifer herself, Melissa Franklin Kahn. Between in May, I'm doing Manchester to Monadnock 55 miler, which is you run from Manchester, New Hampshire to the base of the Pompelli Trail at Mount Monadnock, and then you hike up Mount Monadnock and then run back down. And
that's pretty cool. That sounds like an interesting thing. And the hike, so you run how far and then you hike up a mountain?
It's 47 miles, I think, to the base is what they were saying. And then another, it's like 47, 49 miles. And then the rest of it is all the hiking up and back down for a total of 55 miles.
Man, that's a good day.
Yep.
But definitely, that would be that's definitely great training for the Javelina 100, I would think.
Definitely. And then I threw in there the Vermont 100K, which sold out in 15 minutes, just like the 100 miler did this year. The Vermont 100 miler and the 100K both sold out in like 15, 20 minutes this year.
Oh my God.
Which apparently is a record. So I'm really glad I was at my computer.
I wonder if that's, is that a sign, do you think, of the race itself being like a great race, that people are flocking from all over the place to go do it? Or is it a sign that the sport is growing as a whole?
It's just a very popular race. Yeah. And it's, everybody I've talked to about Vermont, the 100 and 100K has said it's a fantastic race. You're not going to regret doing it. And they told me it sells out really quickly and to get right by my computer. There. So yeah. Well, I got in.
I got to tell you, talking to you, it's like I just registered for the for the New York City Marathon lottery, and it's like this is it's like such a such a pedestrian thing to do compared to the things that you have on your calendar.
That took me 3 years to get in to the New York City Marathon, and that was a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, it is. And I've done it a bunch of times. I do it, I got in for charity a bunch of times, but yeah, I keep entering the lottery thinking maybe I'll get lucky, and who knows? Maybe this is my year.
I think this is your year. I can feel it.
I like doing it. I love that race. It's such a great race.
After the streak of bad luck you've had, dude.
It's been a really bad 2018. You know what? The lottery is soon. It's like 2 weeks from now, I think.
I would never call a marathon pedestrian. It's just way different.
Well, I'm just saying, after all the things that we've just discussed, you're running 47 miles and then going up a mountain.
Once you get out, this is why I'm trying to tell you I need to take you out on the trails, because you need to see how very different it is. And when you get out there, the culture of, if you think the culture of Ironman is wonderful,
yeah,
you see how chill and awesome the trail running and ultra running community is.
Yeah, I haven't stepped foot on a trail since I started running, so it would definitely be a new experience for me. And yeah,
very different. And like I said, don't expect your paces to be anything like your road paces, because you've seen that I can run decent road paces. Well, not since I've been dealing with whatever's been going on with my calf for probably the past 18 months, which is it just on and off and on and off. I don't think it ever healed. So that's what.
So let's talk about this 100-mile race. We're like pushing 15 minutes here, and I don't want to go too much over. I don't want to keep you too. I got you here late at night because it's the only time we could talk. So Javelina 100, how did you find out about this race?
Okay, so I have a friend, she's actually running the 100-miler too, and we're planning on running it together.
Okay.
Kate Pinto is out in California, and she's an ultra runner, and she's not done a 100-miler yet, but she was actually on a Ask Me Anything.
And she calls herself an ultra runner.
She's done 100K. And she's done
just kidding.
24-hour races. Actually, she was on an Ask Me Anything on our Ink and Burn ambassadors page, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a clothing brand, Ink and Burn. One word. It's for clothing for running and everything like that, and yoga and everything. It's wonderful.
You're a big fan. It's all over your page. You can drop the post. You can plug them. I'm not.
I love them. It's just like I own.
You own stock. You're a stockholder.
Too much of it. My husband would say, "Yeah, I own way too much of it." It's true. But anyhow, she's also an ambassador for them, and we applied around the same time, and we became friends through this. But she had said she got into ultra running in, I want to say 2012 or something.
Oh.
And she's been slowly, even more slowly than me, progressing towards a 100-miler. So we were talking, we brought it to like phones and texting and everything. And I said, well, you need to I want to do a 100-miler this year out west, like either California, Arizona, I don't know, something out your direction. And so she compiled a whole list of them. And I started looking at, the various different ones. I said, this one looks really interesting. It's a big party in the desert. is what they advertise it as. 100-mile party in the desert around Halloween. So, and they have a big bonfire, lots of.
They have a promotional video, and I've seen it because one of our first guests on the show, Angela Murphy, she was supposed to run it. And I think she actually didn't run it. She bailed at the last minute. I don't know if she deferred to the next year or not. But I watched the promotional video and it looked like a blast. I mean, for as much as a 100-mile race can look like fun, it looked pretty cool. Like they had tents set up outside and all these, it was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the reality is most of the time you're going to be far away from that. It's 20-mile loops, but,
right.
But yes, the aid stations are well stocked. They have actual real foods. They've got vegan foods for those that are vegan. They've got they bring in pizza. They bring in a whole bunch. It's just a huge party. They tell ghost stories for to keep.
That's what you need when you're running at night through the dark in the desert.
Around a bonfire to keep the crew and people
keep the coyotes away.
Here, yeah, exactly. Or the javelinas, as it
right
would be.
Those are like prairie dogs, right? Is that what they are?
No, they're like wild boars.
Oh, geez.
I think they're in the same family. And actually, the belt buckle I'd be earning has a javelina on it. It was, spelled Javelina 100 with an H, but because the Javelina and it's spelled with a J, they spelled it Javelina 100 with
a J.
J.
Yeah.
Yes, to follow suit. So apparently it's very that race company puts on very, very good races from everybody I've talked to. So after doing some research and talking to a bunch of people and finding out that a bunch of other people I knew have done the race, I decided that was going to be my 100-miler, and I signed up a little after the first of the year to make sure that one didn't fill up.
That's great. Well, let me ask you this then: is so now that you have your goal and it's in October, 100 miles. How are you feeling now? Do you feel like you're in the spot you need to be, the place you need to be for what you need to do, or are you? I know we share a coach. How's your coach feeling about it? What's it like? I
think I'll be fine. October's a long way off, and I've got some quote unquote long training runs, and then I also have some real long training runs that he'll have me do later on in the summer. I think it's good that if I'm going to have injury, I'm going to have it now and get it out of the way, get it healed up. So we'll figure it out, and I'll get the miles in, and I'll go and I'll have at it. There's a chance I might not make it, but I am going to try my darndest. So
where's your confidence level? Yeah, I put it probably about an 8 right now. What do you think?
Yeah, 8.
8.
I think
because you sound like a little. I probably would have said a little bit more a little earlier, but now it seems like you're like, I don't know if I get injured. Are you a little tepid?
No,
a little.
I think it's mostly because of this calf thing. That's and after getting dry needling done on Tuesday and talking to Emily, who rehabbed me through the ankle injury. For those that didn't listen to the previous podcast, I think it does have my wedding picture on it.
Right.
I broke my ankle and had surgery back in 2015, and so a couple years
ago. Like a day before your wedding, you're rock star at the wedding.
10 days before my wedding. It was August 26th of 2015. I do remember the date because it was 10 days before my wedding, and I had surgery 3 days before the wedding. So, and Emily is the same physical therapist that saw me through that. So she knows what's going on, and she dry needles my calf on my left side. So on the good side. Except that she thinks it was overcompensating. And even though she looked at my gait and my gait looks pretty even, she said, like when I run.
Yeah.
So
it sounds, it sounds like you got, you have a really good team. You have, your physical, and I know that your husband's involved in the sport and is on board with the whole thing. And that's a big family support is always key. And your coach,
And I'm supporting his goals of trying to get a hour and a half half marathon this year.
Wow, that's fast.
That's a lofty goal.
That is fast.
We'll see. Hopefully he'll get it, and that'll be in November. So after my race, I think he's going to Newburyport. He said if he can get an hour and a half or better, he will try another full marathon to try to Boston qualify.
There you go. That is a lofty goal. It's very lofty goal, and he will tell you that too. But I hope he can do it. Well, I hope so too. Hey, listen, thank you so much for coming on the show, Jen. I had a blast. This was really good. I gotta say, I almost feel like I'm taking away from your 100-mile running training by forcing you to do more open water swimming. We're gonna get in that lake.
It's good cross training. It
All
really
right.
is.
It definitely is. But we're gonna get in that lake.
Trails after.
Okay. All right. We'll see. I always have a way of like sneaking out, like I got something to do, right? But I will make that commitment. If I'm going to drive all the way out there, I might as well get as much exercise in as I possibly can. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the spring.
Maybe we can drag Coach Shorty in on it too.
Maybe, yeah. And I can get Laura to come out because Laura lives down the block. I'll grab her. We can go, it'll be like a Ascension multi-sport party.
It will.
So thanks so much for coming on the show, Jen.
All right.
Best of luck to you in this year.
Yep.
All right. So, I did want to, I totally forgot, but I did want to mention when I mentioned the, what do you call it? The Ordinary Marathoner. We got a number of sponsors that have signed up, and I want to thank them off the bat. Destination Vacation signed up. Momentum Jewelry, I did mention them. They're giving away the footnotes, they're called. The Sam Fund, they're back again this year, along with Greasy Girl Headbands, who we also mentioned. All of them sponsoring the Ordinary Marathoner. I thank you guys so much. I am on a roll here, folks. So not only, we did a podcast last week. This is going to be put out, if not tonight, tomorrow at some point. And I have an in-studio guest, a guy named John Martin, who is a motivational speaker. So if you've heard any of my podcasts in the last few weeks, this is probably the guy that I need. He's very serious. He's no nonsense. He's going to be in studio. And you know what? I think the sound actually was pretty good on the podcast. So thank you for being the test, what do you call it? The crash test dummy there for me, Jen. It seemed to be pretty good. I'm looking forward to getting it out there. So, we'll be this show, next show. We're on a good trail here, on a good track. We're getting back to where we were, and I'm very excited about the future. So, we'll see you next week. And as always, when it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.